Slam poetry.
He doesn't care if it's perfect.
It's time to slam now.
It's the biggest poem I've got inside of me.
She was a thief. You gotta
Love
vote.
means to love a haunted house.
Yelling, angry.
Blood-black nothingness began to spin.
Specific point of view on
To
things.
this day, I hate pork chops.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Welcome back, everyone, to I Think, Therefore I Slam, the podcast that took a look at the spoken word scene and thought, is anybody writing this down? My name is Andrew, and yes, you're going to hear a little bit more husk in the voice today. I am recovering from a cold at the moment. It has given me a bit of access to a whole nother octave. I can do a pretty good Broden Kelly at the moment. So I don't know, I might see how far I can push that. But yeah, you're going to hear a little bit of a frog in the throat. But you're also going to hear some hum in the drum from my guest today, spoken word poet Steve Atkinson. Welcome on, mate.
Hi, how are you?
Good, man. You doing okay?
Yeah, good to be here.
Thanks, mate. It's been a long time coming, but I'm glad we could carve out some time to do this on this glorious spring day. You've brought a couple of your pieces along with you today. Did you want to talk about your first one at all?
Yeah, the first one was about mental health because I have mental health problems, so I know a lot of people that do. So it was certainly important for me to write something about that, to just express how quickly it can change, even referring to myself and not making this too dark. But like even a couple of days off your tablets and things can turn very ugly very fast.
Awesome. All right, mate. Take it away when you're ready.
Okay. This is called Hannah. She stood in the middle of the frozen lake that she knew would crack. This would be an ending. There would be no going back. Her life had brought her to this, with lack of mental health support. The ice wasn't her battle, her whole life she had fought. In a way she knew she was like the ice that was going to crack. The waiting seemed to calm her. She was at peace with that. In her life she had made choices that never worked out well. She couldn't move beyond this, living in her own hell. To others she seemed to be removed. By some she was even feared. But to herself she would become dangerous. That is what has brought her here. The thing with mental illness is our mind doesn't work the same because our body's energy is twisted and this affects the brain. Blockages within the body that affect our mental health. We don't see things in the same way. It becomes something else. She could see the ice cracking underneath her feet. It was about to happen. Hannah had a front row seat. The ice cracked and Hannah went down. There was instant regret. Hannah wasn't coming out. The ice quickly set. Some say she is now at peace. Others say she's not. There's so much that we don't see. Do we stir the pot? Thank you.
Lovely, Steve. Thank you for sharing. Let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the subject matter there. You said that you wrote this out of a passion about mental health. Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah, it is important. Particularly, I've been around a lot of people with mental health and seen a lot of people going through like rehabilitation and stuff like that. And it's ongoing. And like a lot of people are on tablets and stuff like that. It's just a thing that they have to live with and manage. And some people are on severe medication, which affects the way that they behave. It brings them down a lot. They don't get excited about things that other people may get excited about because the medication brings them down so they can cope with their life. And like I've been in the case where I have been severely mentally unwell, and believe me, it was just another ball game altogether.
And this character from this poem, Hannah, is Hannah based off someone you know's experience or your own experience at all?
There are parts of it that are of the experience. I know people that have been through the mental health system and been thrown out because they were considered, like once they got over the age of 25, they were just cast aside and said, well, if you want help, then you have to come back yourself and ask for it. And like with someone with mental health, the thing is that they're not going to go and say, I need help. In a lot of cases, they will just try to manage by themselves. In some cases, yes, they do, but that's not always the case. And then you've got someone with mental health problems trying to cope by themselves. And then, yeah, if they're taking their tablets, fine, that may be helpful. But if they're not, you've got a real problem.
Yeah, I think it's a huge challenge all the way from the individual level to the societal, global level. It's a real challenge to find, I don't know, what works for every person, because we all have a brain. We all have systems of our body that are connected to our brain, and they're all a little bit different. And there's a lot of challenges there, definitely.
Sorry. And the thing is that a lot of people in their lifetime, they're saying the stats are something like 1 in 3, it's probably less than that, will have mental health problems in their lifetime. It's a lot bigger than what people think it is. But people are starting to realise just how serious it can be.
Yeah, and it might be a seasonal thing. Emotions have a use to them, like evolutionarily, and so it's normal for us to like feel sad when we're grieving. So I think that there's that balance between like finding an understanding of like normal human emotional experience while I don't know, just teaching obviously coping strategies and resilience. And yeah, I'm no doctor or whatever, but yeah.
No, not from my, but like even a negative mindset can shift people. It's easy to get stuck into that, but sometimes things, the way we see things, aren't actually reality. It's just that mindset that we're in. And when we finally start to come out of it, we realise that the world's not as horrible.
Steve, you and I met in the hallowed halls of Littlefoot and Company's spoken word night, which has got plenty of airtime over the last few episodes of the show. And I know that you're starting to branch out a bit into some other local and inner city spoken word events. Tell us, how did you get started with sharing your work?
Yeah, I started like writing lyrics for songs when I was younger. Music was the big thing for me. So like that was just an extension of that. And I thought that if I was my chance to express myself and say what I wanted to say, that I never wrote anything that did anything or went anywhere, that it was just something that I developed. And like I like some of my songs, even though I never got heard from anyone and I can't sing, but I enjoyed that process of doing it. And then after a while, I just thought, well, this isn't going anywhere, I'll just sit on it. And then I had a job where things went bad, and after that I just thought one day, you know what, I'm going to write poetry. The first poem that I wrote wasn't good, but the second one I wrote, something hit, and that was it. I said, I've got something here, and it evolved from that. It's just really building it up and getting the content out there at the moment, because there are other things that I'm thinking maybe I might do a book in the future or something like that, but that's a long way off. And if that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be shattered, because I believe that life offers us many opportunities. We just got to accept them as they're presented to us. Yeah, it's just really like getting the content out there at the moment, and as the poems come through, I'll just put them up and people can like them, hate them, whatever. Yeah, and just getting feedback on what people think. And it's always good to keep going and see how you're developing and see how you think you've changed, or what you could bring to something, and what ideas may come to you, and how it all turns out and how you all put it together. So it's an interesting process.
Yeah, and look, whenever I open Instagram or whatever and I see that you've put up one of your videos where you're speaking to camera with a piece, it always brings a really big smile to my face. So you're doing some good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like we're pretty rough. We don't like spend any money on what we do, so it's pretty raw. And like I'm sitting there, there's no camera lighting or anything special like that, and I'm missing teeth and stuff like that. But like we put it out there, and I've had one poem that started to take off. Well, people say these things don't happen. Well, I say that they do, and you just got to persevere with what you're doing. If you believe things won't happen, what are you putting out to the world?
Yeah, well, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's about managing expectations. We know that we have such little control about whether a piece might resonate with someone, but if we never try, if we never present it to someone and say, hey, I did a thing, would you like to see it? If we never do that, then of course nothing else is going to happen. So sometimes that first step is the most important. Do you just use your phone to film yourself? You said you keep it a pretty kind of bare bones.
Yeah. Like my son will film it. So like I do, like I'm like a spiritual person. So my son will do like a card video where I'll interpret cards and stuff like that. Then after that, we'll do a poem. The poem doesn't take long. I tried it. He doesn't like to record it more than a few times, but yeah, I'll try to get it as right as I can without him before he gets bored with it. And then we'll just like put it up days later. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've become pretty consistent with it. It seems like you pretty regularly will put up, whether it's a poem, whether it's one of these card readings. Do you call them card readings?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Whether it's one of these card readings or whatever. Tell us more about these cards. Is this tarot that you're doing?
No, they're oracle. I can read tarot, but I don't understand all of the cards. I've got to like doing more intuitive things now, which is what I do with the card reading. But I just do what comes to me or what I feel the card means, or something that is relevant to the actual card. So like it's something anybody could do it, but it's more to inspire people to see good in themselves and to help give them guidance. In reality, people could do that themselves, but not card reading, but like get their guidance for themselves. They just have to really go within themselves and do that process. But it can be beneficial, and sometimes just by looking at something else, you can find things that come to you that you may not have been ready to hear. It may appear out of nowhere, and you think, that's what I need to hear. That's great.
Yeah, and the artwork on these cards is pretty stunning as well. Like, they're obviously well looked after and treasured, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning and information, and I'm not saying that everybody agrees with everything that they hear. Obviously, people have different opinions, and that's fine, but sometimes what you can learn from them can be very interesting and give you a different perspective and way of looking at things.
Yeah. No, I love it. Love it. So you started with song lyrics. I know that we spent some time talking about the music that we love and the artists that we've gone to see. Are you like a musical person? Do you play an instrument or anything like that?
I tried.
Oh, yeah? How'd you go?
I did like guitar for 6 years and I was terrible. I blame my teacher, but my son tried to help me, but I was too far gone by then. But I learnt more off him than I learnt off my teacher in 6 years. But I wasn't a good student. I was just a lot of anxiety around it and get frustrated when I wasn't picking things up. Whereas some people can pick things up, I wasn't picking things up, and I was getting very frustrated and anxious and angry with myself and thought, I'm not happy doing this. So for me, it's the right decision to just leave it.
Yeah. And you said that your son often helps you with these filming sessions. Do you see or do you intend to pass down that kind of creative drive to him?
He plays guitar. He's exceptional. He's more like heavy metal type music, but he can play other styles of music really well. All his friends are really amazing at guitar. It's just that generation and all his friend group, they all play guitar. They're all amazing. And when you look at the professional people and you look at them, it's really hard to spot the difference because they're just really good. But he's a great support, so I enjoy having him around.
That's good, that's good. And how did you find out about Littlefoot? Because like I said, that's where we ran into each other.
Okay, so for me, I was very isolated and I'm not a person that has any friends and stuff like that. So I thought that I do poetry and I'd been making some videos and I thought it might be time for me to try go to a group or community just to see if I fit in or see if there's anything local. I eventually come across this looking online and I thought, will I go? Won't I go? And I sat on it for a while. And then I went and I was pretty much expecting to get there, say my poem and just get off and just for some reason I had this feeling like I'm invisible. But people started approaching me and they were really nice and supportive and I thought, I've got to come back, even if it's just for everybody else. So, so I started from there.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you for being so honest about how you were feeling stepping into that room initially. How did you feel stepping out? Like that feeling of you said being invisible, did that change for you over some time?
Yeah, it did. And it changed pretty quickly actually because once I realised that people were actually seeing and listening to what I had to say, it wasn't about whether it was received well or not. I understood that they were listening, so I was cool with that. Something
about having people's attention or undivided attention, I think that is so important in our relationships to feel like you're actually being heard and validated in kind of what you're hearing. And I think events like Littlefoot really foster this. And you've said it plenty of times, but I think these spaces are so important. But it's been cool to see you branch out a bit more. I've seen you at Percolations and Dandenong. I've seen you up at some Wordcraft events in the past. I know that you've been giving it a crack at a few of these Australian Poetry Slam heats recently. How's that been going?
It's interesting, but each slam tends to be different. So I've done a couple, but I don't know if I'll do another one this year. But the experience is good and it's always good to get out and meet new people. But the reception in the crowd can be different depending on where you go. You just try to appreciate the things that they have to offer when you go there and embrace that and feel like, well, I'm receiving this because this is different from this place in some way. So you take that with you and
No, for sure. And do you feel like it's helping build your confidence? Because it sounds like that's what you wanted out of it.
It is. My confidence is the thing that fluctuates at times, but that can be that negative part of me. I call it the ego, but it's that negative voice inside yourself that says that you can't do things and you'll never be good at things that you can actually do. You just are getting in your own head. So sometimes I need to get out of that and just look for the light, or as they call it. And I think positive reinforcement sometimes is underestimated because we all need it. And it can also cause growth. I'm all for it.
And my heart was really warmed by a heat that we did together a few weeks ago. I know that you and Lionel Lennon, who's been on the show before, you guys have done some kind of work in tandem, and I know you guys are good mates and you try and cheer each other on as much as you can. It's good to see.
Yeah, Lionel's very cool. So, yeah, I like Lionel a lot. So,
yeah.
He's been very supportive of me. So, Jude's another one who's been supportive of me. When people say something nice about you, you tend to take notice of it, particularly if you feel it's coming from a sincere place.
No, I love that, mate. Love that. Now, it sounds to me like your ambition is growing with that as well. You mentioned that you'd love to get a collection together and release a book. And I know you're a listener of the show, so you've probably heard all these stories of people who are using various tools to do that the barrier of entry has definitely been lowered, which I think is good for everyone. So, yeah, is that kind of a goal or a dream for you?
I don't know about a dream, but it is a goal. But for me, the idea of doing that would be to leave something behind for the people that come after me. And say, in my lifetime, I achieved this and I did that. And this is what I have to say, because to me, poetry gives you a voice and you can go wherever you want. You can say whatever you want. You can talk about whatever subject you want. We can cover things. And poetry is one of those art forms where it's not really censored, where a lot of even comedy now is being censored. So we really need to protect poetry while we've got it.
Totally. And I think it does fit under that kind of free speech umbrella or whatever. When we say free speech, we don't necessarily mean you can say or do whatever you want without consequence, but you can say and do whatever you want without being socially lynched or whatever. Yeah, that's what we mean.
Yeah, I sort of think that everything has a consequence, whether it be positive or negative. I call it karma, but people may see that differently.
Yeah, nice. You've mentioned the feeling of nerves before. Like, do you still get nervous before you perform somewhere?
Yeah, I do. It depends on the night and what's gone on before it. Sometimes I can sail through it a lot easier than other times. It is getting better, but every now and then you'll have an experience and you'll think, why am I experiencing this? Sometimes when your internal self and your external self are sort of at odds, it can create some tension. So I'm learning that I hold a lot of things in as well. So don't get me wrong, there are people where I will say what's going on, but I'm learning that that damage of where as people we keep things thinking, I won't say anything, I won't say anything, I won't say anything, and it gets to a point where it gives somewhere else. So yeah.
Tell me more about that external and internal self and how you feel they're in tension sometimes.
I was always a person growing up that did what they were told and tried to please everybody else and was never stepped out of line and stuff like that. So I think that I was a very timid person when I was younger. Yes, I could talk to people and stuff like that. But as for like a backbone as a person, I had to learn that and grow into that as I got older.
Yeah.
And speaking up is not something that I'm comfortable with. So yeah, it's been quite a journey and some people have taken advantage of that. So I was sort of like redefining my boundaries.
Yeah, love that. Love that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. There's a lot of people out there, myself included, and we might call ourselves people pleasers in recovery or something like that. Learning to know when you've had enough and how to say that, and how sometimes we train people in how to treat us and what's going to be acceptable and not acceptable.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we put up with certain things, we're saying to them that it's okay to do it.
Yeah, totally. And so when you say internal self, what you're pointing towards is that inner knowing of like, this is who I am, this is what's okay for me, this is what's not okay, and learning to express that in the external.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me as a person, I have a good sense of who I am and what I am. But yeah, I am very patient with people and sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah, as in you feel like you give people too many chances maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could say that.
Yeah, no, totally. Again, you're certainly not alone in that. And I think that'll be a lifelong learning for people like us, Steve, in terms of learning from experience and being like, okay, well, next time I'm not going to put up with this kind of treatment, or next time I'm going to make my needs known more explicitly, that kind of thing. So the learning never stops. I don't think we ever get it perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a backbone, but, sometimes it takes a little while to get there.
Totally. And it might take a certain kind of person poking you a few times before it comes out.
Yeah, I've been poked a bit. So, yeah.
I read somewhere, I can't remember when I read this, but like as a kind of general approach to life is to have like a strong back and a soft front. So a strong back You think about how that a strong back would support you and support your metaphorical body or whatever. And the strong back means that you're not going to let people take advantage of you, but you lead with a softness and you give people the benefit of the doubt, but you've got your radar on and you're looking out for people who for whatever reason just can't have a respectful conversation or want to manipulate you kind of thing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like crying out victim. I'm just saying that, you know, people have things to work on and that's something that I need to work on. So, yeah.
Totally. No, I think it's fair. And also the fact that even the aspect of like psychopaths, right? Like there are probably more psychopaths out there than we think, but not all psychopaths are dangerous. We're not talking about like mass murderers or anything. We're just talking about people with psychopathy. So people without empathy. I believe that that's one of the definitions. I could be wrong. Yeah, like you just need to have your radar out sometimes a bit and just like lead with softness, but also have that strong back and that whole thing of like, yeah, I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah, I'm a person that's like, I call it in tune with my body. If something feels wrong, I will go with it. If you go somewhere and you get a bad feeling about something, I'll just take that as a warning and say, it's not for me.
Very intuitive, very in touch with your gut feel, you might say.
Yeah, just feelings in general. So you're not trying to get all soft. I'm just saying that I see it as your body talks to you. It's just up to us to listen when it's not well. It tells you. It's just up to us. If we ignore it, it gets more obvious. But yeah, I see it. Life is sending you signs and signals. We need to pick up on them sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And do you have any like things that you do to help you stay in that intuitive state?
Yeah, I suppose I do because like I said, I'm a spiritual person. So like I use my spiritual gifts to help me, but then it's not like something that's exclusive to me. They're things that everybody has got. They just don't use them. Like I talked about, like your sense of knowing. Everybody has that at times. Sometimes people will just know things. They don't know why they know them. They don't know how they know them, but they just know.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. They just know. And sometimes we strongly feel stuff, and that is also a thing that can give us signs. And sometimes people, like even writing poetry and stuff, they may hear a voice in their head. It may be their voice, but it's still giving them the next line or something or ideas what to write about. I don't like see things or that, but there are people that do that as well. So you just use what you've got and, yeah, make it work for you.
Make it work for you, yeah, and enjoy the journey. Well, thanks for walking us through all that, Steve. I think it's time for your second piece. You want to prep that one for us?
All right. This was called Animals Talk. I've done this a few times before, but this was really about the animals because, like, I feel like they're a part of me. I feel like I'm connected to them and, like, they're in my head. So, yeah, this sort of come about like that. So I'll give this a go. This is called Animals Talk. The animals, they talk to us, each in their own way. The animals, they talk to us, but do we hear what they say? And animals know how to love. Is that something that you missed? They know who is loving and who rules with an iron fist. They all have their unique behaviour. They all have their unique ways. But sometimes their behaviour can keep us amused for days. Animals, they all have brains, and some animals are incredibly smart. You may not always see their brains working, but some are like works of art. If they are distressed, you will see them with habits very weird. You may need to pay attention because their habits may be out of fear. They want you for security and to tell them that they're loved because your animals are angels that come from up above. Don't take your rage out on your animal every time something goes wrong. All they really want from you is to make them feel like they belong. Your animals, they do love praise. That comes from the heart. If it's not sincere, then you don't know where to start. If your animal trusts you, then you have a friend, someone who really loves you to the very end. Your precious animal is special, something you should never forget. So everybody love the animals, especially if it is your pet. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. What is the pet situation like for you at home?
Yeah, we've got a cat.
Okay.
That is very aggressive. And she's great. She's great fun. And we've got 2 dogs, which are Basenjis. Yeah, they're cool. They're very different too.
Yeah.
So if people know about Basenjis, they know that they're actually very cat-like. Yeah, and they clean themselves, and some of them can climb trees and stuff like that. So, yeah, and yeah, they groom themselves so they don't need grooming. And Yeah, you have to feed them certain foods and that because they are very different. Like if you feed them meat, you can actually kill them and stuff like that. So they are different. And they're not a dog that will be all over you. They're more standoffish and respectful of their space. And if you tell them to do something, they may not do it. They'll think, well, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. So yeah.
Pretty fiercely independent, like a cat, like you said.
Yeah, they have a great sense of smell, better than bloodhounds. So yeah, they're a bit different. So
Beautiful. I've always been more of a dog person. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Maybe it's just because I guess the way that dogs express their affection has always been just more accessible to me.
Cats are more independent. They know their space. They won't stick around. If a situation's not working out, they'll think, I'm out of here. I'll come to you for love, but I'm going to do my own thing, whereas dogs tend to be more like hands-on.
Yeah. I loved in your poem how you almost talked again about the intuition of animals and how they've got survival instincts as well.
Animals are very intuitive. It's just us that are just connected to it.
Wow. Do you find with your pets, let's say you have someone new around to your house, do you look at your pet's response to them and their response to your pets? And does that say something to you? Do you think, okay, maybe this person's trustworthy or not?
Yeah, it does, but it also depends on what they're doing with the pet. Like if they're all over it and, say it's a cat and it wants its own space, well, it's not going to have a bar of them. But yeah, there are animals that do take to certain people and that's just one of those things. And yeah, some people have strong bonds with pets. Wherever they go, the animals are all over them. So, yeah, some people are just animal people and some other people should not have animals.
Yeah, totally. And again, coming back to maybe the psychopathy thing for a bit, I think, again, we talk about when young people harm animals, that is often a bit of a warning sign, that kind of really strong antisocial behavior. I think it says a lot about a person when they take out their anger on animals or whatever you think. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah, if people do that, I think there are more serious things going on and it should be looked at more seriously because the person is a potential danger to other people as well. Yeah, if they do that to animals, I don't want to get dark, but if they would do that to animals, what's to stop them from doing that to somebody else?
Yeah. And, it makes me think of that news, the news story a while back about someone, doing things to the quokkas on Rottnest Island over in WA, that kind of thing. And you just think, oh, that's awful.
It is. I didn't see it, and I tend not to watch the news, but yeah.
Good move.
I know there's a lot of dark stuff out there because it just tends to bring my energy down. Yeah.
What would be like your dream pet, do you reckon?
Well, I love dogs. I do love the cat that I've got, but I've got a strong connection to a lot of animals, but I do love whales. Yeah. Just the fact that they're just so at peace in their environment and stuff like that. Yeah, and I love the happy energy of dolphins and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, for me, it's about the connection with the animal that you have. It doesn't matter what animal you have. It's how you connect with them and what you get out of them. And people that treat animals as stupid really aren't going to get much out of them.
There's a whole subculture around pet ownership, and often pets are almost treated like another person in the family. Like, it's really incredible the bonds that we can form. And people talk about when they lose a pet that it's just as powerful as losing a person often.
Yeah, it can be very traumatic and people can grieve for quite a period of time. It shouldn't be underestimated, the effect of grieving after losing an animal.
Totally. All right, Steve, let's jump into the waters of creativity here. I want to hear about your creative process. How do you go about generating ideas for your work and refining them and bringing them to full growth and full completion in your work?
I sort of see myself like a man of God, which means that I have a belief in God. People can argue over what that is, but sure. I do have that, and I didn't always have that. I've been on, off, but I'm definitely on now. I believe that what I need comes to me. So, like I said, in the ways that I spoke about before, so it will come to me. I used to get a lot of gut things, but then I started doing like angel readings a long time ago, and things started to come more to me in my ear. Like I said, it's my voice that I would get the information like that. Yeah, a lot of the time it tends to be like that, which is good for me because I'm hearing it in my head, what I want to do, and I'll just go with it. Like if I start to get something, I'll just stop, get out the pen and paper and start writing. Whatever it is, it's whatever it's meant to be. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it flows brilliantly, and I just say thank you and be happy with that.
Love it. So it sounds like your work is almost like how you operate in day to day. Like you're clearly a very intuitive person, and that kind of is entwined with your spirituality and your spiritual practices?
Yeah, I think everybody is intuitive. People are just disconnected from it. It's there for everybody. It's not like only the chosen few. Yes, some people have developed it, but we've all got it. And some areas work better for people than others. It's just a matter of being open and receiving how information comes to you, whatever that is.
What do you think is causing us to have that sense of disconnection with our intuition?
That's a good question. I think disconnection sometimes, I think when your internal self isn't happy, I think sometimes we want a lot of things that we don't need. What we think we need and what we actually need are two different things. So I see us as love-based people, and when we're starved of that in some way, things fall apart. And a lot of people, like I said, about not speaking up for yourself and what you want. I'm not saying you'll get what you want, but if you don't say what you want, you definitely won't get it.
Wow. You said you believe that we are like love-based people. I really resonate with that.
Well, people say like the opposite of love is fear, and we can see the polarities there. And doubt is like the same thing as fear, so people can get trapped in those emotions. But I think we are a unity as a whole, as a nation, as a world, and I think people are disconnected from that. And the more that we come together as a unity, I think we'll start to realise in the world, yes, things need to change, but we all need to come together and just embrace each other. Like the poetry work, really?
Yeah. And maybe one of the issues is that maybe we're overlooking the things that we have in common as there gets to be more and more subgroups and whatever. We're overlooking common humanity, common dignity or whatever, and arguing with each other about maybe the minutiae of life rather than taking a wider view.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So it sounds to me like you relax into the practice of creativity. You have this view that it'll come when it's ready and that you just want to be ready when it comes.
Yeah, that's it. I see myself as having a purpose.
Yeah.
And what comes to me when it comes when it's meant to come.
Yeah.
And I've tried forcing it in the past and it hasn't worked out. And like you said, being in a relaxed state, being in a happy state can also increase the flow of it. Yeah, and like when you're stressed out about something, you block yourself out from what may come to you, the ideas and stuff like that. When you're in a relaxed state, when you're in a happy state and just relaxed and having fun, things are open to come to you, and that's when a lot of stuff comes.
Yeah, when I think of relaxed state, I think of like resting and digesting, that kind of getting back to baseline.
Yeah. I meditate, but like everybody's got their thing. You don't have to do that. You just have to have a bit of quiet time and relax and get back to you, because we've got so much external noise that we need to embrace our internal selves, because if we don't embrace our internal selves, our external selves will be messed up.
Yeah, and I think, there's so much external stimuli there that if you want to, you don't have to spend any time with yourself questioning what you really want. Or I think our wants are very easy to manipulate, and I think maybe our wants are simpler than we make them. Like, I want good quality sleep. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's something so simple and it's something that I could work on, but sometimes that gets lost in amongst bigger goals that I might want for, not for their own sake. Yeah.
Yeah, but like even now in my life, I'm thinking, what do I want and what do I need? You know, what do I think I want? What do I constantly chasing after that's not going to make me happy? And what do I need that is going to bring me emotional fulfillment so I can enjoy my life and live a happy life?
Love that. And do you relate to any of these kind of creative blockages that we've talked about? Does it just not work for you some days and you're like, oh, I can't find the words, or I'm not liking what I'm putting on the page, or I'm worried about what people will think? Do you face any of those blockages?
It just depends what's going on in your life a lot of the time too, because my understanding is that we create the blocks in our life. So like I said, that's a thing for me to look at what's going on and what's causing it. Sometimes I'll find the answer, sometimes it may take a bit longer, but I'll just think, well, this may not be a time for me to be doing anything. I'll just relax and just let the ideas come to me and stop worrying about things so much, and just it'll come when it's ready. I know it will come, but I just have faith.
There's that old saying of, what is it? What is yours in this life will not pass you by, or whatever.
I think for me, it's a matter, I'm big on trusting myself. Yeah, I try not to get disconnected from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, in a way, it's all there is. If you're not friends with yourself, if you're not being kind to yourself, if you're not liking yourself, then that has effects on everything else. Like I said, strengthening that internal intuition, that internal self, and then living that out in the external world.
Yeah, for me, I don't think we're meant to like ourselves. I think we're meant to love ourselves as people. And just the trusting yourselves. A lot of people may say, oh, yeah, sure I do. But when it really comes down to it, they don't. And that's something that they need to work on. Once you've got your self-trust, once you learn to love yourself, a lot of things will start to fall into place as well.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who is quite similar to yourself, Steve. And when we see each other, we catch up on what's been happening in our lives. And then he'll often ask me this question where he'll just say, oh, so are you enjoying life after all these other factors have been talked about? And it used to annoy me because I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I just told you like all these good things and bad things that are happening. Like, but I actually appreciate the question because it's so simple, and often I'd have a hard time answering it. And sometimes the answer would actually be no, like I've done all these things and there's these things happening in my life, but I'm not enjoying it. I feel like I'm on a ride that I'm enduring it rather than enjoying it. So I guess at the end of the day, I appreciated the question to take that and to help self-reflect and going, okay, why am I not feeling a baseline sense of contentment? Yeah, it's a hard question.
Yeah, and sometimes people are chasing things that are not going to make them happy. And sometimes the why are you doing something is important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And people say, for some low-hanging fruit, chasing money, for example, you got to ask about your why. Like, there are good reasons to chase money. You might have a family and kids, and there's that kind of noble reason of provision and how that's built into all of us in a way. But there's plenty of other reasons that are more endurable and not quite enjoyable. I'm getting money so I can feel significant. I'm getting money so, I don't know, my dad will love me or something like that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with money. For me, if you're not happy before you've got the money, money is not going to make you happy.
Yeah.
It can bring temporary happiness, but long-term happiness, I mean, you look at a lot of successful people, they're not happy. They've got everything. They're not happy. It's not the money that's making them happy.
Yeah, and everyone dreams of winning the lottery, but I think we've seen enough case studies of people where that happens and it's actually quite destructive. People lose friendships and they might end up in a lesser place than where they started even.
To me, happiness is key. For me, my state that I'm in is really important. If I'm in a happy state, I just want to stay there.
Yeah. What's your morning routine like? Like, how do you set yourself up to be in that state and to stay in that state?
I don't really have a particular thing, but I'll get up early and just sometimes I watch YouTube videos, but I'll try to watch things that are happy and just keep me in that sort of flow. And then, I'll do a card write-up every day, so I'll do that and just do things that are positive and happy and keep me in that happy state and try to carry that through the day. Yes, I get upset. Yes, I get angry. Yes, I have moments like everyone else. But basically, I'll try to stay in that state, and as long as I can stay in that state and think, well, that's really not important, I'm more concerned about being happy than being right or whatever. So I just try to stay in that position and just see how I can navigate the day.
Oh, wow. I love what you said about like you could be right or you could be happy. Like they're not always the same thing. You could win every argument, but it's not necessarily going to bring you that baseline peace that you're after.
Or sometimes you can win the battle and lose the war. So,
Yeah, another great way of putting it. I like it. Oh, thanks, Steve. And I appreciate you bringing your perspective to how you generate ideas and keep yourself in that intuitive kind of conduit state of mind with your work. What do you see is next for you? Do you see yourself just continuing to share your work and in different contexts?
I don't really know what is next. I'm just focused on now. And for me, it's just about getting more content out there and building it because I'm enjoying the process, and for me it's about the enjoyment of the process. What comes or what doesn't come is great, but yeah, I'm just trying to stay in that happy place and just go with it. I mean, yes, my emotions go up and down like anybody else, and yes, people have darkness in their life and they have a lot to deal with, but I'm just like anyone, just trying to stay in that happy place as much as I can and just go with that. And I believe that there are opportunities for everybody, and if you do the work, eventually they'll present themselves to you.
I love how you said that you're enjoying the process, because so many people, again, I think that we have to let go of the results. We don't know what's going to happen with the work that we put out there, in whatever context that might be. If we can enjoy the process and have that sense of intrinsic reward to it all is really important.
Yeah, I've got nothing to say on that. I totally agree.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, that's good to hear. I'm going to hit you with our famous turkey question at the moment. Setting the scene, you're going to a spoken word dinner party. Everyone's bringing a dish through their work. We don't want to have too much main dish, too much turkey. It's overwhelming. I'm wondering, when you think about your work and what you're bringing to this metaphorical dinner party, what kind of food is it?
Yeah, you said about not making people too full. Yeah, I'd bring a lasagna, but a nice lasagna. But yeah, I know people say about meat and how they don't like meat and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd bring lasagna because I like to feel that my work is satisfying to people in some way, and just hope that what you put out there is received in that way.
Love it. A bit of lasagna, a bit of pasta cake, as people might say.
Yeah, it's filling. Yeah,
it's filling. I feel like it works good in summer and winter. And yeah, just a crowd pleaser. I'm all about lasagna. I'm practically, I got that kind of Garfield energy, just like back up some lasagna,
Yeah, cool.
Love it. So you now get the privilege, Steve, of nominating one other artist. Now, I'm going to be quite strict on this, Steve. Some of my guests have been a bit cheeky and have tried to slip in two there, and I've got to be strict. I've got to set my boundary and say, no, you get to nominate one other spoken word artist. And the deal is that I have to invite them onto the show. I have to reach out and see whether we can make it happen. So did you have any thoughts about who you'd like to nominate?
Person comes second in your poetry slam.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes. This is Taylor Richardson. Did you get to chat with her a bit?
I spoke to her briefly and she was really nice to me. I mean, I said nice things to her, obviously, because she comes second. Yeah, love your poem, blah, blah, blah. And she said that she loves my stuff. And it's like, yeah, it was just a really good exchange. So, yeah, that was nice. That was unfortunate that night because I had to leave early. Didn't really get to congratulate you. But, yeah, you know that I wish you well.
Thanks, mate. Yes. So Taylor and I have the privilege of going to the Victorian State Final of the Australian Poetry Slam. Now, by the time this episode comes out, that will be done and over, and probably the national final will be done and over, so we'll know who the national champion is. But as it stands right now, I'm very excited. And, yeah, Taylor shared an amazing piece. Yeah, would love to have her on. I know that she was on Dylan Alcott's podcast recently, which is called Listen Able. So I've got lots of questions about that and just about her life experience. So absolutely, that's a great nomination.
Yeah, I don't know much about her, so I thought that might be interesting.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic nomination, mate. Thanks for doing that.
Cool.
You're going to leave us with one more piece before we wrap up?
This one, I'll introduce this as well. This is called The Storyteller because I had connections to music. I used to like the artists that would tell stories through their words and stuff like that. So they were the ones that sort of drew me in. They may not technically be the best singers, but they would take you to another world where they would cast their stories and they would draw you in. And just people that you speak to that always have stories to tell. And I think, I've got no stories to tell. What's going on with me? When I started writing, I thought, I want to tell stories as well. I may not be able to do it all the time, but there's got to be stories in me somewhere. Just come around like that. This is called The Storyteller. Everybody gather around. There's a storyteller in town, telling all a story they can embrace in their life. The story's woven like a piece of art, guaranteed to touch your heart. And when the story's over, it will leave you wanting more. There is passion, there is wit, there is humour in certain bits. There is moments to make you think as people pass around their drinks. There is reason, there is hope. The storyteller is the GOAT. And when the storyteller's done, you'll realise the story was lots of fun. Is there a story within you that you could share with some friends or a group to suspend everyone in time and give them something that's divine? Whether it's warm or cold, the storyteller will take hold. And when you're done and when you're through, you realise the storyteller in you. Everybody loves a good story, especially when it's well told. Everybody loves a good story, whether they are young or old. There are many places you can go, and the storyteller puts on quite a show. To bring the people together, the storyteller's very clever. Storytellers for kids, storyteller books. On TV and video, take a look. Storytellers through history, storytellers through art, storytellers through poems, lighting up the dark. Thank you.
Beautiful, mate. Oh, wow. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. There's stories to be told from all of us. So thank you so much for sharing some of your story and some of your work. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, Steve.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Weetabix hands, what's that all about?